All right, we're continuing Way of the Warrior Kid 3, Where There's a Will, There's a Way by Jocko Willink. We're on Chapter 2. At the end of every school year, we have one day called Field Day. It is fun. At least it is now that I can do better at the events. I've even won some of them. This is a long way from where I was in the 5th grade when I couldn't do a single pull-up. That was the summer that Uncle Jake came and taught me how to work out, how to eat healthy, how to study, how to swim, and even got me started in jiu-jitsu so I wouldn't get bullied by Kenny Williamson, who became my friend after I stood up to him. Last year I did pretty well at just about every event. The only one I wasn't very good at was bobbing for apples. I just couldn't get my mouth around the apple because it wouldn't stay still in the water. It says, you'd think one would at least stick to a tooth or something. But I did well at pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, and then the 1 mile run. In fact, I won all pull-ups, sit-ups, and burpees for my class. Tony Haley won the push-ups, I think because his arms are so short. And Iris beat me in the 1 mile run and won first place because she runs the 1 mile, she runs competitively and trains all the time. But field day was still a great time and I had a ton of fun. This year was different, very different, and I bet you can guess why. Danny Reinhardt. He won just about everything. He beat me in pull-ups, sit-ups, and burpees. Tony still won push-ups, though. I did 31 pull-ups. Danny did 37. I did 107 sit-ups. Danny did 131. I did 36 burpees in 2 minutes. Danny did 42. And every time he would win something, Danny would just act like it was no big deal. He would smile and shrug it off. Winning was so easy for him. It says, wins come and go, no big deal. But when it got to the mile run, I figured I would take him and even win first place since Iris broken her ankle in the spring and still wasn't allowed to run. So since I got second last year, I figured that with Iris out of the race was mine for the taking. My class and Mr. Blackwell's class lined up for the race. The PE teacher, Mr. Sadalski, then looked at us all and said, on your mark, get set, go! I sprang off the line and started to run hard. I wanted to get away from the rest of the kids and be out there on my own and away from the rest of the pack. In a race, the slower kids slowed me down if they were ahead of me. Not this time. I sprinted hard and got ahead of the pack. It didn't take long before I was in the lead, out in front of everyone, out on my own. Once out in front, I didn't even look back. Uncle Jake told me when racing, if you look around, you lose time and momentum. So I just kept charging ahead at a solid speed. But being in first place wasn't enough. I wanted to make sure that not only did I beat Danny, but crushed him. So I ran really hard, really hard. Then, as I rounded one of the corners, I noticed someone just a bit behind me. And of course, it was Danny. So I ran a little harder. It was a long straightaway, so I just tried to run even harder, but I was already out of breath. I had to slow down just a little bit, but I thought I was far enough ahead of Danny to beat him. As I slowed down, I kind of got my breath back, but I was still hurting. Now, as I continued down the straightaway, I couldn't tell where Danny was without looking, and I needed to know. So despite what Uncle Jake had taught me, I turned my head and looked behind me to see where Danny was. I saw him, and he was gaining on me. That's right, despite how hard I was running, Danny was running even faster. I couldn't believe it. So I tried to pick up my pace a little, but I just couldn't. My lungs were already burning, but Danny wasn't slowing down. He was getting closer and closer to me. I could hear him breathing, and he was breathing hard, even harder than me. I started to get mad that he was beating me, not just at the race, but at everything. So I decided I would try to run harder so I could stay ahead of him. We didn't have much further to go. I stepped it up, but it wasn't enough. Moments later, Danny was right next to me. He was breathing like crazy. I looked at him from the corner of my eye, and he looked at me like he was going to die. If I could just hold on a little longer, I thought he might break, but he didn't. He kept straining and breathing and fighting, and I just couldn't keep running so fast. My lungs just couldn't take it anymore, so I backed off. I let go. And as soon as I did, Danny pulled ahead of me. Not just by a little either. No, as I slowed down, he actually sped up and started running even faster. I couldn't believe it, especially because there was no way I could run any harder, but Danny could. So I kept running, and I came in second place. When I got across the finish line, I looked for Danny, but I couldn't see him. Then I saw a crowd of people from the other classes looking at something. I walked over and saw Danny. He was lying on the ground, completely exhausted. I was tired, but not as tired as he was. And honestly, it felt pretty good seeing him there on the ground like that, because I knew he was way more tired than I was, which made me feel like I had won. But the crowd didn't think so. They were all telling him, "Great job and nice race." No one said anything to me. When Nathan and Kenny finished the race, they asked if I had won. "No, Danny Reinhardt won," I answered as I pointed to him lying on the ground, wanting them to see that he was way more tired than I was. As soon as I said that, they ran over to see him and tell him he did a good job. That feeling that I kind of won started slipping away, and I realized that Danny had beaten me again, and I didn't like it.